Newcastle in the headlines just because it looks like Benjamin Sesko, their target, may be to replace Alexander Isak on his way to Manchester United. We've been asking you to call in and text in, and you're doing that in your droves. Remember, phone lines are open 03717 22 3344. You can text us as well, 81089, as Abby has done from Glasgow. Says, hi guys, can you ask Simon this question? If a different, more well-established manager had been in charge of Newcastle, does he think it would have been a different matter with Sesko? I guess we can broaden it out to all the signings that I've read out before the break.
It depends what you think a better, more established manager looks like. I think Eddie Howe's profile, reputation and regard is in quite high order. I mean, he's likely to probably be the next England manager. I think he conducts himself excellently. He's team player, brand of football that most people enjoy watching. And they've won a League Cup and got into the Champions League. Now, yes, he doesn't have the stardust name of XYZ manager, whether it's Mourinho from the past or whether it's XYZ
or Guardiola.
Yeah, but he still has enough cachet and presence and wherewithal to attract people's attention. Yeah. And of course, players in the dressing room are a big part of that as well. The players that play know one another across the circuit, across the industry. You know, you've got some names in there like Tonali that have played in big clubs, and players that are in other areas that are big players. Yeah, that will be part of the equation.
This one's coming. Newcastle are only a big club in Newcastle. One trophy in 70 years. United have been bleep for 12 years and still won trophies.
Yeah, we agree. I mean, I always say that. I used to say it to the late Freddie Shepherd. You're a big club in Newcastle. But they're a big club. And their noise is significant now. And yes, they're right. They've only won one trophy, and the whole nation came out in seemingly admiration for Newcastle winning the trophy, and didn't quite seem to get the same energy in the media for Palace winning the FA Cup, which is the bigger cup. Anyway, put aside my personal bias in that instance. I think that Man United has all the appeal that we know it has, but it has all the challenges. That it's a mess. It's got fans that are protesting the first game of the season. It's got people that aren't performing at levels. It's got people that is an exodus of players that are supposedly top players that don't want to be there. They've got a manager that pees all over it every time he possibly can. You've got owners that no one likes. And you've got the huge pressure and expectation of a club that does carry all that legacy. So there's lots of reasons why Manchester United is not... shouldn't be the given choice. And I without being critical, because I'm not privy to the conversations, people have got to up their games at Newcastle, perhaps, and up the woo that they're pitching. And
in terms of that one-to-one direct pitch, as opposed to going through agents.
If Alex is to believe that the strategy was to secure the club, the club is the easiest part of the equation to secure. Just pay them what they want. The player is the more difficult part of the equation. The player is the one that needs to be convinced. The player is the challenging aspect. The club you can sort out, because the club will take the best offer.
Is geographical sort of issues a reason here? This is coming from Kenneth, who says, I think Newcastle are struggling because where Newcastle is, players want to live in the northwest or London over Newcastle. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, well, it's certainly London is a pull, isn't it? And that people will say, well, it's because you're a southerner. No, it's because it's a pull to international. People think of London when they think of England. They don't think of rainy days in Manchester, do they? And they might do because they've got a music scene there, and Oasis alive and current right now. Man United is such an iconic football club. And Man City have been the best football club for the last 10 years in terms of achievements. And Newcastle comes with that a little bit of stigma as to where it is a beautiful part of the world. Yeah. And it's a fabulous town, and it's a great football club. And they've just got to work harder. They've got to work harder on creating the optics and re-evaluating in people's minds that we're owned by the richest people in sport. Yep. We're owned by huge opportunities and huge influence. Look at what we're doing in boxing in our space here. Look at what we're trying to do with golf. We're now going to do it with football. Newcastle is our club that we're going to achieve it through. And we've got potentially the next England manager in our dugout, and we've got a whole raft of things. We've got top players. Look what we did to Joe Linton. It's all about making sure that people get the right message, and it's easier said than done, and I'm sure they're doing a lot of that, but we're in an outcome business. And if the outcomes aren't where you want them to be, then you've got to reevaluate your pitch. And if Alex is right that the pitch was made to the club rather than the player, and probably somewhere in the middle is the truth, then they've got to do better. Yeah. Because if you lose out, they lost out to Man United. They didn't get off, irrespective of what people think about the boy from Brentford going to Man United, they didn't get off the starters grid with that. He'd already made his decision before anything. So that was a preordained bias. I'm not sure the same can be said of the boy that they've just missed out on.
Yeah. Now, some might say, look, the players they've missed out on have gone to Chelsea, Manchester United, and Gahey still stand at Crystal Palace looking for a Liverpool move. So maybe it is just a pecking order thing.
It is a little bit, yeah.
All right, let's go to the phone lines. Mick, the Newcastle fan, is on the line. Mick, what do you make of what's going on? It looks like, although you did put in a big bid for Sesko, it looks like he's deciding to go to Manchester United as opposed to your club.
Yeah, well, what I would say is that this financial fair play thing is an absolute joke. They should really rename it the Newcastle United restriction policy because, Simon, you can talk about all those things that you've talked about. The bottom line is, if somebody's going to offer you £200,000 because we can't go any higher than that, and another club's going to offer you £300,000, it doesn't matter. If the roles were reversed and we could offer 300, Man U could offer 2, the player would come to Newcastle United. It's purely about the finances of the player. Why would they go for £100,000 a week less? It doesn't make sense at all. But, and we've been restricted just like Aston Villa has,
And I agree with all of that. But what is the indication that suggests that Newcastle are having such PSR restrictions that they can't meet these wages?
Well, because obviously, if you can only pay so many £300,000, you've got to keep everybody happy, haven't you? You've got to keep a happy changing room. So if somebody comes in at 300 and you've got Bruno on 120, they're all going to be wanting to be paid roughly around about the same.
But again, I ask you again. I don't think there's any indication that Newcastle haven't got headroom in their capability to meet. I understand what you're saying, which is that if one gets it, they'll all want it. If he gets up, they'll all get up. It'll be anarchy. I understand that. But Newcastle don't seem to me unable to meet these obligations. They may not want to. And I'm also curious about the Saudi attitude, because the Saudis aren't pushing the envelope.
No.
They're not challenging the orthodoxy. They're not pushing back against it. They seem to be awfully compliant with playing ball with the football establishment. They've gone into golf. They don't care about breaking up the golf establishment. They run roughshod through boxing. Yet in football terms, they seem to have bought a football club, harnessed it, told the world that they're going to be very motivated, and yet they're not pushing the envelope and challenging the orthodoxy. Marinakis is challenging it. He's gone, sod it, I'll have a go and I'm going to spend whatever I want. And Newcastle don't seem to be doing the same thing. What do you make of that?
Well, to be honest, Simon, you've actually echoed the words of so many fans up here now who are actually questioning what's happening with the stadium, what's happening with the infrastructure, with the with the director of football going. So those questions are being asked by a lot of fans now. Because we thought that they were going to be pushing everything. We thought that they would be putting big bids in. Which apparently they have with Man U, but we still think it's we still think that it's to do with players' wages. I mean, you get an agent, and I know you love agents, Simon. But I mean, what happens with these agents who negotiate a 6-year contract and the client only does 50% of the contract? Why do the agents get the full money? Why isn't there like a clause back to say, well, hold on, you've negotiated that. We want half of our money back that we paid.
But they will. The thing about the agents, and don't be under the illusion that they get all their money up front, a lot of them will get the money on the drip. So they will be paid their fees over the proportion of the contract. So if they break the contract, they might get a kicker from the buying club that tops them up, but they will not be getting. So if they get 10 million for moving Isak from wherever he came to Newcastle, that will be paid over the period of his contract. So if they move him out, then Newcastle wouldn't be paying the rest of the agent's fees.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.